Hello everybody, this is G-Free, and this is a Dota 2 game that I played on US West, and I wanted to upload this game because I played Spectre in this game, and I don't usually play position 1s, usually I'm the support. It's a position I'm very comfortable with, but here and there, once in a while you get a team that just doesn't seem to have anyone who wants to carry, and so I was like, sure, well, I'll go position 1. Recently I've been playing a lot on US West because I've been trying to introduce my friend Jace, Spellin343, Ryan here, to Dota 2. He comes from League. Pretty fun. This TA on my team was a random. He wanted to swap, if anyone wanted, and we just said, nah, none of us are interested. So he considered actually sticking with it, but we said, nah, just stick with something you're good at. As you'll see, he'll eventually swap onto Ogre Magi. I mean, I like Templar Assassin mid. She snowballs pretty hard, but my general opinion with Templar Assassin mid is that if you're not very confident with her, you really shouldn't be using her too often. Her skill set is nice though. So Ogre Magi is a very popular position 4 or 5. We have an Earthshaker here, and Earthshaker tends to need a little more farm, so I think the Earthshaker went position 4, Ogre Magi position 5. Ogre Magi is pretty useful because he comes with a slow, an immolate, a stun. Earthshaker comes with another stun. Spectre works well with... Sorry, let me set this free camera. Spectre works well with Earthshaker because Spectral Dagger means Earthshaker's fissures really won't be in too much of an issue. Bristleback's another good slower, in a way. Strong offlaner, position 2 in this game, and it looks like we'll have Windranger mid. It's one of Jace Bellerin's preferred mids. Now I opened with the Quelling Blade, Stout Shield, and Tango opening because Spectre's base damage at level 1 isn't fantastic, and I do need a little help, but the Tangos were taken because their team has 2 ranged heroes, and I immediately assumed I was going to deal with Axe in the offlane, and he would try to harass me as much as he could because one benefit Axe has is that when Axe tries to harass and the creeps try and just get on him, it just triggers his counter helix, and that will end up doing more harassment damage to me. So I went for the Stout Shield because I wanted whatever extra defense I could get. And I mean, if I were up against an Axe, my immediate response would be to consider transitioning this to a Poor Man's Shield just for, one, the extra last hitting damage, but also for the slightly extra defense. And a little bit of aggression right here. Windranger went for level 1 Shackle Shot. I'm okay with this, no real opinion. Windranger's one of those heroes where you need to make the call then and there to decide what skill you're going for. Naga Siren went top, and I suppose that's okay because Naga Siren has Riptide and Mirror Image and can still do a decent amount of harassment with it. Naga Siren really just needs those levels if she's going for position 4 or 3. If she's going for position 2 core, Naga Siren has a hard time. Now in the safe lane we have the Viper. I would normally prefer Viper mid. Viper's one of those heroes who I feel wins mid lanes. And then we have Axe safe lane, which is kind of pointless against Bristleback and Earthshaker off lane. And this is a very potent combo. Once Bristleback hits level 6, 1 fissure means you're dead. Mid lane we have Huskar. He's another good mid laner, but he's trying to attack from low ground and it's not doing too well for him. He's also auto attacking. And Medusa's doing the ancient creep farm, but I need to check the previous patch notes because I mean usually when patch notes come out I just focus on the heroes I like to play. But the gold gain isn't very high right now, and the experience game is dreadfully low for this Medusa. So this Medusa isn't actually paying off with her skill shot, with her choice of farming. And instead, she's also invested in this Quelling Blade and split shot level 1. Split shot level 1 is a huge deal because Medusa's early game is her weakest. So whatever skills you get are huge commitments. And because this is warded, our Windranger got the Invis rune immediately. The fade time there is a bit rough. As you can see in the gold per minute, Windranger's clearly winning her lane. I'm doing pretty well in mine. I feel I should be doing better, but like I said, Spectre's start is pretty rough. I could have gone for the poor man's shield here, but I felt confident in our ability to handle just a solo Naga. And as you can see, Medusa at this point has Mana Shield, which is pretty important for her. It's what allows her to be really tanky. And by the way, this game, because I saw Medusa, and I know Medusa hard carries really well, especially considering my team has 4 melee, my immediate choice was Medusa needs to be shut down. So I was immediately thinking first item after threads would be Diffusal Blade. Diffusal Blade's pretty good because your Haunts illusions will all get the mana break in addition to their Desolate, and it's also useful just because it's extra damage, which early on Spectre can lack if you don't farm up by getting Radiance first. I didn't go for Radiance first this game because I didn't want to have to deal with Medusa's shield for too long. To be fair, Medusa did alright in terms of gold, but in terms of experience, Medusa is still right at the bottom. So Medusa didn't turn off split shot, so she's not dealing much damage to me at all. She's dealing 43 damage per hit. And I already have some levels in dispersion. I have 1 level in dispersion, and that is a 10% damage reflected. Now, my preferred opening is always 1-2-2 with Spectre, unless you clearly know what sort of build you need to go for. I didn't really go for anything at this point because I didn't know whether our team would be able to go for any early aggression. We should be able to, but when it's a pub game, you can't be too sure because the only friend I'm queuing up with is the Windranger, J Spellrun 343. So here's his lane. He's doing well. He's got 256 gold per minute, while the Huskar is at 185 XP per minute, 397. Huskar's, getting the EXP. That he can't not get the EXP unless one of them gets a kill. He had to take level 1 early Inner Vitality, like normally I wouldn't, but... And he's clearly building for Earn, which means that he's going for an early game aggression. Viper's building the mech for their team, Axe getting his Boots of Tranquility. So yeah, I feel this was a really bad call by their team. I'm not sure whether there was some disagreements at the start, but basically Axe should be an offlane hero. He's very safe. One thing I do feel about Axe is that I often consider Axe to be a weird mishmash of Legion Commander and Centaur Warrunner, and I feel that they do his job better than he does because he's a good hero, don't get me wrong, but he also feels like a bit like a commitment, a bit like an all-in, because he doesn't tank as well as, say, Centaur Warrunner does, and he doesn't gank as well as Legion Commander does. I mean, Taunt is essentially dual, but with a possibility of multiple. That was a missed Shackle Shot, but Windrun saves Windranger's life, and yeah. Windrun is a fantastic ability. It's sorely underestimated, which is why it's always important to have at least 1 level in Windrun. My preferred opening is actually to max out Power Shot first, and yeah, we missed a gank up here. Nothing much happened really. A net was thrown, damage was done. Women lamented at the loss. Safe on Radiant's safe lane, my off lane. This, it looks like Axe was trying to go in for a gank, but yeah. Yeah, and that happened. A shame. I feel that if Bristleback had just started running off earlier, this would not have happened. This Huskar engages at the worst possible time, and so that one stun just gives Earthshaker a free kill, which frees up mid lane, and so Jace had ample opportunity to just push the lane a little bit, deal some damage to the tower since he had the catapult. At this point, what happened with Medusa? Ogre Magi killed Medusa. Let's rewind and just try and catch that because I missed it. Okay. So at this point, Medusa is pretty low on mana. So we weren't too worried about her shield and we just went in. Yeah. Yep. And killed by the Ignite, which does a fairly decent 26 damage per second, over 5 seconds. Plus the slow is good when you're with Spectre. So now I'm level 6 and I can start ganking any lane I want, but without boots it's actually not a viable thing for me to do. Really at this point, if I haunted, it would just be to stand around for the EXP. Yeah, I haunted there because I wasn't too sure if they'd get the kill. That was a waste in my opinion, so unfortunately. I just blew 150 mana. But we decided to go in. And yeah, Ogre Magi stunned Naga at the best possible time. And we figured who was the target immediately. And Desolate. That's why you get Desolate, kids. Desolate's damage is pure, so it's a very strong skill. It's great for chasing. But eventually, once you start snowballing, it's also great because in pub games where teams aren't as coordinated, you just end up with these really rough teams that just run away and scream whenever anything goes wrong. And Naga's just losing mana at this point. Mana Shield is definitely one of the stronger abilities in the game, and it's only balanced because it's on Naga. So at this point, I mean, the Huskar is 0-2-1, he's not doing too well, Windranger is 101. Most of my team is doing fairly well. Axis hit level 6. Viper is... I was actually a bit concerned about Viper. Viper is my second concern. But I was fairly confident in my ability to eventually be able to solo against Viper if I had enough farm. My immediate concern was Medusa because of Medusa's tankiness and the fact that because we're a pub match, not everyone knows how to deal with Medusa. Not the best of fissures. I don't think they were really in any position to get a kill, so I feel that was a bit too much of a commitment by Earthshaker. We didn't see Huskar, I think. I think we sort of had an idea he was there, we just didn't really know. But we get the... yeah. And Windranger uses Windrun. And they wanted the kill on Windranger, they just weren't prepared, I guess. Because what happens next is... yeah, a tower dive. So I get Ogre Magi, and these two decide to back off. We traded our position 3 for their position 3, and I got farm. So that was in our favor, to be fair. That was actually in our favor. And if you look at the XP graph, I mean, they had a slight gain from that, but very marginal. And Naga Siren's blown her ult. So, really, that's... Naga Siren blowing her ult means that she's not going to be ganking anything anytime soon, and she's not really in a position to get away if we decide to engage on her. Windranger decides to head for mid. She's gonna get a bit more farm. I'm okay with this. It's not a one-sided game by any means, but we've already gotten a pretty decent lead. The Medusa isn't farming enough. The Medusa has a Void Stone and a Gloves of Haste. Medusa's farm in this game is 181 gold per minute on your priority one that is abysmal. And Huskar's here. We didn't have any wards in the jungle, and I'm pretty good about being defensive here, but this happens, and I don't have the mana to use my Spectral Dagger at all. My Desolate my Desolate gets me that kill. So I mean, I traded 1 for 1. It's not optimal, but at least it's something. Yeah. It's a pretty big deal for me because I hit level 9. I have a Blade of Alacrity already. I'm well on my way for my Diffusal Blade. And these guys decide to go in. And I mean, Naga shouldn't have been sticking around, but she did. So that's an easy kill for our Windranger. And an easy kill on their Medusa. So I mean, you traded me for Huskar, Naga Siren, and Medusa. That's an amazing trade. And I mean, offlane gets farm, but the Viper has a mech and brown boots at this point, and the Axe has Boots of Tranquility and a magic stick. They're in no position to really harass me or kill me at this point. And because I felt that the enemy team was ganking me a whole time, or wanted to gank me, and my lane is pretty aggressive, I went for an early dispersion. It's not what you usually want to get when you're going Diffusal first, because Diffusal first is very aggressive, so you want to max out Desolate so all your haunts are really deadly. But I was a bit concerned for my survivability, and also because my team's other late game hero would at best be Bristleback, who can be nullified by BKB. I didn't want to risk it too much. Well, not nullified, because I mean, he can still do his Quill Spray, and they'll still give him a buff, but still won't really do as much damage as we would have liked. They were in a pretty bad position here. Ogre was very aggressive. I did my ult, we went in on Axe, and everyone knew where everyone else was at this point, so this team didn't go into reinforced. They decided to back off, and that got us the easy kill on Axe. I didn't need to haunt in for that one. But I was also concerned about where they were, because we didn't have wards up yet at this time. The Ogre Magi and the Earthshaker haven't gotten new sets of wards. They were focusing on getting the Arcane Boots, which are pretty core items. My opinion on wards is that wards are like a godsend, and as a support, I usually prefer to ward, so I would love any support who does his warding right. I throw in my dagger, but yeah, this was a pretty big engagement, and Naga Siren went in. Ult was used on Earthshaker, and that was a brilliant shackle shot. We traded Earthshaker for their Huskar, which is still a good trade. Medusa blew her ult too, so that makes her... Medusa and Naga blew their ult, so it's another safe entry for us. It's sad that Earthshaker had to die, but... Who got the last hit on... Yeah, I got the last hit, so that's more farm for me. I'm about to get my second Blades of Alacrity. And once you get your Ring of Alpha Spectre, you're fairly tanky to creeps, so you can go into the jungle here and there if you've got nothing else to do. And this Axe is pushing really hard, but I mean, we haven't lost a single tier 1 tower, and they've lost all their tier 1s. So I mean, even though they've got a lineup that should be better at pushing towers because of Viper, Viper's, what's it called, Nether Toxin is amazing at pushing towers, but didn't go that way. And this happened, and I mean, at this point everyone was like, yeah, no. And I mean, Medusa just got creamed. I mean, Medusa ancient farming was funny when it first came out, but I mean, it's not really effective. Like, Medusa's farm right now is 183 gold per minute, and she's died 3 times. So I mean, even if you factor in that we hadn't caught her out, I don't think she would have farmed fast enough. Her experience gain is 253, and most of that was when she was in lane. Her items are pretty much the same as the last time I took a look, but she does have 1.3 gold, K gold. She can get her threads, though she really just wants her Lincolns at this point. And we take their ancient creep camp. We get spotted out here, and that splits them up. And as you can see, my illusion, just go back here and watch the illusion that goes on Huskar, because I get a double kill here, and that's just my illusion's damage because of Desolate. That's all Desolate right now. Level 4 Desolate is 65 bonus pure damage per hit, even on my illusions. That's not scaled down. My illusions deal 30% of my normal right-click damage, but they get the full bonuses of any of my unique attack modifiers, which is why Diffusal Blade and Max Desolate is a very aggressive build. Whereas, for instance, if you went Dispersion and Radiance, that's a more defensive farming build. And of course you have all the talking. I actually disagree that they have more late game heroes than we do. I mean, Medusa is a great late game hero, but Naga Siren after her nerfs don't really allow her to do like the full brand of bullshit she used to be able to. And this is me going in, throwing my dagger, and Medusa blew her ult. I think she thought it would still affect us during Naga Siren's ult, but it didn't, so I just turned around and run. And Huskar engages me under the tower again, easy kill, and Earthshaker has a brilliant ult. And I mean, that's just an easy cleanup after that. Medusa at this point has brown boots and nothing else. At this point, if you're Medusa, you need to get something that's a bit more substantial that can deal damage, because she's not contributing to team fights. And I think that's a lot of flaw a lot of players have when they're starting out, is that they get a good build, but they don't understand how to transition out of it. And so this Medusa, I think, was sticking to a Lincoln's build and just didn't transition out of it, even though we were winning. So she didn't go for any extra damage, which is what she needed to get at this point. I mean, ideally you'd want a Scotty, but I'd even say with... Sorry, I'll finish that later. Anything happen? No. I'd say that you could actually make do with... Well, it's not optimal, but especially against our lineup, even Desolator at this point might have been a decent option, or at least getting a Blades of Alacrity, building towards Yasha would have been a decent build as well. Actually, no, that would have been a better build. Building towards Yasha right now would have been a better build than trying to finish that Lincolns. Because Windranger's got Lincolns, and at this point, yeah, that's just a cleanup. That's rough. Our level differences are pretty major right now, because Windranger's level 13, and their highest level is Naga Siren at level 10. The XP gain at 19.5 minutes in is already over 10k, and there goes Medusa again. Similarly with gold. Yeah. Medusa's still trying to stick to it. It's quite sad. So I mean, Spectre is one of... yeah. I went top lane because I was trying to stop the Naga. It's actually... like, if I had gone in with full health, I would have won, I think. It's a little sad that I lost. Naga survives with that much health. I overestimated myself, definitely. And here I'm like, yep, I'm going to be building for BKB. BKB is an excellent way to shut down Huskar. It's an excellent way to shut down Viper. And it's also good to prevent Axe from controlling you in team fights. So, all around, it's a good item. And this Bristleback has gone for full tank, because that's what we need right now. Ogre Magi is going for Force Staff, that's another good one. Earthshaker has his Blink Dagger, and basically at this point we've got their jungle warded, so they can't safely farm because that was their only option now. One thing to remember is that when you are in an aggressive stance, you need to place your wards aggressively to maintain momentum. Conversely, if you're losing, place your wards in a defensive stance, like in your own jungle, so you know when they've been around there. And this is me just farming up because I was like, yep, I lost a one-on-one fight against Naga. And this team just does work. Naga does her ult, and Medusa tries to go in again and stand there, and they don't seem to realize it doesn't work that way, so Medusa's ult gets wasted. We lose Ogre Magi, but Bristleback's really hit his stride, and now he just turns away. And Medusa's in a really bad position because Medusa should have ran, and I just do cleanup at this point. I get my revenge. While Windranger does a whole ton of work here, and Windranger at this point only has Lincolns and Phase Boots. I believe I told him to go Aghanims and then Desolator after this because he'd be the best tower pusher on our team. Because at this point we only really use Windranger for utility rather than extra damage. Well, because Earthshaker provides nuke damage just as well. I go top, I fail to deny the tower. At this point, Axe and the other team. It looks like the other team's on tilt. Axe is building towards Blade Mail, I guess, or Crimson Guard. One of the two. It's important to note that, as you can see, this Perseverance isn't going to be helping Medusa at all right now because the mana regen she gets from it isn't enough in the position she's in. She needed to get that ultimate orb, or she needed to just transition out. Like I said, a Yasha would have helped her team immensely. This Naga Siren's got farm, but I don't like the Chrysalis build because Naga Siren just doesn't scale well as much as she used to. I would have preferred Naga Siren to go for Diffusal, actually. Diffusal would have been a good option because this whole 35% image damage is not affected by doesn't affect the Diffusal Blade's mana break, so it would have lost the full amount of mana. These two are in a really bad position. It's unfortunate. Windranger fired a power shot, that's about all she could have done. Too many of them for her to control. But we do clean up, and this happens. I fire my dagger, I turn around, I get a kill on Viper, turn on my BKB, go on Naga, because Naga was the one who could deal the most damage on their team. Then I go on Huskar, because I didn't want to have to deal with his fire arrows. It's unfortunate, but Medusa's ult got off on me. And I get the kill on all of them, but Huskar's burns finally have their way with me, but I got a triple kill. I mean, well, the Viper I suppose doesn't really count because that was just cleanup. But we get the opening we need for Windranger to push the base, and I remember just egging him on to just go, you're fine. Yeah, and that's Diffusal Blade level 2 because the Diffusal Blade's active has really paid off at this point. And I mean, yeah, it looks like Naga's just pinging a whole ton. This match, I mean, we haven't pushed the barracks, so nothing is set, but it is very one-sided at this point. Axe doesn't have his Blink Dagger. He's going for Blade Mail, which isn't the answer against Spectre. The problem with fighting Spectre is that a lot of Spectre's damage does not come from her actual right-click. In this case, it's coming from my mana break, and it's coming from my Desolate. Not to mention I have Dispersion. So I mean, so just let me take a look at it. Well, I mean, it returns any form of damage he takes, but the fact that he's taking pure damage means it's going to be going through his armor. And at this point, no one knew who was supposed to take the Aegis. I thought that it was Bristleback who was going to take it, so I just roam around and continue farming. It's only after like this weird long discussion that we were actually having that they decided, hey Spectre, do you want the Aegis? And I was like, okay, I'll take the Aegis. Which, I mean, it pays off later on. Normally I would have actually said give it to the Bristleback, but he didn't have space for it anyway. So I come along and I believe I dropped my TP scroll. So yeah. And with this Aegis, I take the Illusion Rune because my illusions will also have Desolate. They will be very scary illusions. And I'll take the time to promote the fact that this new Spectre set actually looks pretty cool. I look like some form of weird cyborg. So, I mean, Spectre is one of those carries who I feel is very versatile. She can go for nearly any item you want. Heck, I've even seen Refresher Spectre, and that's a pretty good deal. But that's also more of a win-more thing for me. And what is... yeah. They do this to go in, and Axe... I see what Axe is doing and immediately know what he's trying to do. He's trying to land his taunt. So I've got my BKB ready. And silly me still continues to try and attack him. So instead I try and go for the real damage dealers, which would be these two. Which is fine. The two of them are dead. And I see Ogre getting chased. And yep, he dies. And we get a team wipe. So basically I've hit the point in the game where I'm really tanky. There's really not much they can do against me unless I guess they get a Desolator. A Desolator would have been pretty damn good against me because I have at the moment 16 armor. That's a 50% physical damage resistance and that stacks with my dispersion. So my dispersion means I completely negate 22% of the damage that's done to me, effectively increasing my max health. And the Huskar uses his ult on a creep, and it wouldn't have been much use against me because my health was pretty low anyway, and I had Aegis, so I wasn't too worried. Yeah, and my Aegis pops and we back off. And they land a net on me, and I decide go full BKB and just attack things. The Medusa is unfortunate, but I think that kind of summarizes the Medusa. I mean, there's no point having the recipe for Lincoln Sphere if you can't finish it. Ogre Magi dies for me. That's... I feel I could have kept him alive if I had just backed off, but I think I was being really greedy, and that's my fault. And at this point, I should have transitioned my threads to agility so that my Ring of Health would have been healing more for me, but I didn't. Instead I go for my Sacred Relic, and that's because the only thing that came to mind was Radiance for more pushing power. I don't think that was actually a good option in hindsight. I should have just gone for a Yasha, or alternatively just gone for a Skadi. The Slow and Skadi have been pretty good for my illusions, whereas the Yasha would have made them move essentially at max movement speed. Now I considered going in on the X, but I wasn't too sure whether I'd be able to kill him in time before his team could reinforce him. But this happened, and I just decided to go for the one with max health. Yeah, I would have actually killed him a lot sooner if I had just attacked the illusion first, because then he'd be alone and my Desolate would have just maxed out. But the Naga's farm at this point can't compare to mine, and the Naga's still trying to go for a sort of carry build or a core build, and it doesn't work on Naga anymore. So who's down here? It's Huskar. I mean, as far as this team is concerned, they have been completely surrounded on all fronts. And I believe I haunt in for this one. Yep, I haunt in and I go on the axe because I wasn't too sure of my ability to dive behind them now that I don't have the Aegis. I had to play it really safely again. It would have been nice if we had an urn, but at this point everything gets used on this Viper. And yeah, he just dies. Yeah, Windrunner has Desolator and she's working towards Aghanim's. So it's a Desolator. Windrunner is one of my favorites for base pushing because it scales well into team fights, but it's still amazing for all of these pushing shenanigans. The Radiance, like I said, was not a good call in my opinion. The bonus damage is good, but the Abyssal Blade would have been a good option because it would have shut down pretty much anything they might send at me at that point. In hindsight, if I had the money, I should have just gone for the Abyssal Blade. Yeah, and so that's how Spectre works. You can go for an aggressive build, like I did in this game. You can go for a more defensive build. Spectre does depend a lot on his team CCs, and Spectre is great at punishing people who are out of position. Once your team has started pushing their towers and they have to deal with attacks on multiple fronts and they have to split up, you are amazing at responding to that. So, yeah. I hope you liked this game. I hope I enriched your life in some way, and thank you.